yeah, the market's not pricing this in yet. I don't think they are. I think it's a very interesting opportunity because everyone's thinking one thing.
I think the tough thing with Bitcoin right now is most of the movement is still just on trading and speculation right now. And there's actually less merchants who accept Bitcoin last year than did in 2017.
The new 2020 onward cycle, which we've never seen before. And I mean, even at the start of this year, I see the structure is completely different from 2013. Like, you can look at price and you go, oh yeah, it's going to be a 2013. But if you look on chain, it's like completely different structure. It's the 4-year cycle is that 1 year, and it's just horrific, right? And like the way I look at it, I'm like, people thought, is it a 4-year cycle? Is it a lengthening cycle? But I'm like going, no, it's either a 4-year cycle because we're locked into the gravity of Bitcoin's miners in the halvening cycle, and then there's the macro cycle, which, these are gravitational pulls, and it's gonna we're gonna go 4 years, or we're gonna get pulled into the macro economics, which is roughly 10 years, and we're gonna go binary to being correlated to any other world asset. It'll be like that. And so if we break this, and let's say it doesn't start caving in 2022 and it just falls back into another 4-year thing, but the demand and supply is sufficient for that escape velocity, and all of these complications and interactions of the new Bitcoin ecosystem. And really it was very simple before. It was just miners halve the amount of dumping onto the market, and that's the impulse. Now we've got volatility impacts, how much volume is traded. Those kind of impacts impact how much is selling on the market, because those infrastructure guys dump, right? Because they dump their collected Bitcoin revenues and fees into the market. ETFs are the same. They collect their thing, they dump their fees, they dump it on the market. So there's this very complex interaction now. And so one thing that I can see is highly probable is that a little bit like, tell me, is Dan Howard's super cycle, is he saying we skip a cycle, or is he saying this is the full-on thing and we no longer?
He's saying, well, he doesn't know. It's a theory, a bit like Plan B's S2F model is a model, and S2F is a model until it breaks, right? So the model will either continue through and we will see 150, 200,000 Bitcoin, and then we'll drop whatever, and the model will continue, or it breaks. Dan's is similar. It's a theory. He has a theory that we might go into a super cycle, and I'm trying to remember it because I covered it in the show with him. I asked him what would cause it to be a super cycle, and I think he said it would be less. I'm trying to remember, less than a 50% drop from the top, because we've been used to 80%, 70 to 80%. Be less than 50% from the top, and then continue back up.
Okay.
So, and I think that was his theory on the super cycle. There's a lot of things pointing at a super cycle, because I think that the 4-year cycle makes sense when you look at it through the lens of retail investors, and you look at the lens through miners and the halving cycle, and you also look through the greed and fear kind of index, right? It kind of makes sense. But I think so much stuff is plowing into Bitcoin. If you have an ETF or multiple ETFs, you have a nation adopting Bitcoin, you have massive amounts of inflation coming in and people realizing about Bitcoin. I think you can beat. I think they are the things that point to the fact that you won't have that 4-year cycle. You won't have that 80% drawdown. Perhaps we say we could go up to 150k at the end of the year, and early next year drop to 100, but then go up to 200k by the end of next year. I think the cycle will get broken by there being a much bigger market of Bitcoin buyers and sellers.
Yeah, so when I think of cycles, I think about the x-axis, the time component, which is 4 years. And I was interested to see if these super cycles, we skip a cycle and we come back. It's an 8-year bull run, and then we come back. And but I think what's happening is that we break the 4-year, and once we break it, it's essentially like this thing that's reached escape velocity, and we're no longer pulled into the 4-year mining cycle. And you can see it already. The price is doing this drunken wander of price discovery, and it's not these nice parabolics we saw before. And I think we just wander. We just keep wandering up and down as Bitcoin adopts and gets to saturation. Without these, 50% was the last pullback. which we just had. And like, well, that was the last one. That's a good kind of barometer of what we can expect in the future, and it'll get less and less and less. And then we have these correlations to macroeconomics. So that's it. Like, that's the big revelation, is that's the first solid bit of on-chain data-driven suggestion that we've reached escape velocity. And like, that's getting me pretty excited. And I'm like going,
Yeah.
whoa. I looked at the options market, and I was seeing what these call options were, making a bet out into 2022 of what Bitcoin price will be. And I'm like going, well, seems pretty undervalued based on these new models. And I'm like going, yeah, the market's not pricing this in yet. I don't think they are. So
I don't think so.
yeah, so like, I think it's a very interesting opportunity, because everyone's thinking one thing, and the latest stuff we can see in the data between the investors is that it's not going to repeat, and this cycle is not a 2013 double pump and a blow off top. This is completely different. This is the new 2020 onward cycle, which we've never seen before. And I mean, even at the start of this year, I see the structure is completely different from 2013. Like, you can look at price and you go, oh yeah, it's going to be a 2013. But if you look on chain, it's like a completely different structure. Never seen it before. So yeah, and even like at the start of the year, they were going, what do you think is going to happen at the top, blah blah blah. And I'm like going, I'll tell you when we get there. With like third, fourth quarter, I'll have more information. And now it's starting to come in. And it's like really interesting, It's like, wow, this is very promising. We're going to have another run, and like, forget December sell-off, which has happened every other top. Yeah. So yeah, it's good news.
Well, like I say, I'm bullish as fuck, mate. I'm more bullish now than I think I have been at any point during this bull market. I've been accumulating Bitcoin again, and I don't like buying Bitcoin mid bull market. I don't, just in case I'm wrong. But I am accumulating again, and yeah, I'm bullish. I'm getting into the mining, and I hold more Bitcoin now than at any other point during this bull market. And and I did sell off a little bit for my little venture into buying a few cars earlier this year, but yeah, no, I'm really bullish. So we'll see how it plays out, man.
It's been going on for a few months now.
I didn't know if that was new.
I put in a disclaimer, but no one reads disclaimers, and then I was like, no, I've got it. And actually, one of the things was when I did the forecast, I think I was on a 10 in a row. There's a decent number of rows of forecasts. It was correct, and I think I made a mistake of not saying this is probabilistic. I am going to be wrong, and eventually it's going to sting you. And because a lot of people are like, they just thought it's just like clockwork,
Crystal ball.
Nothing's like clockwork. It's not a crystal ball, right?